Last week, we started the first of a series of sessions on the threat of artificial intelligence. Today will consist of a second interview with Dr. Colonel Drew Miller. Dr. Miller also has a book coming out soon calling for strong control of AI and an absolute ban on the development of superintelligent artificial general intelligence, or AGI. He also goes into more detail on how we can avoid being wiped out by AI. Dr. Miller, last week you cited several studies and books from AI safety experts who say that it will be impossible to control superintelligent AGI, which is very likely to take over and possibly exterminate all of humanity. Many people find this hard to believe. Could you further elaborate on the threat posed by AI and AGI?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people don't think that AI would actually be able to wipe out people, but it's very doable. There have been several studies that have talked about it, but I think probably the best explanation of this is this book by Yudkowsky and Soares. And they're probably the leading AI safety experts in the field today. They've been working on AI controls for decades and finally have just concluded that it is impossible for us to have any chance of controlling superintelligent AGI. That's why their book's titled, If Anyone Builds It, Everyone Dies. And a lot of other people agree with them, and I'm one of them after studying their book. And so for examples on how the AI could kill you, there's hundreds of ways we can think of, and that's the threat about superintelligent and AGI is it'll invent new weapons of mass destruction that we can't even think of today that it will invent. But in their book, they cite as an example, AI is already set up in all kinds of biological research labs in a lot of countries designing new viruses. So it could deliberately design a deadly new virus and release it, or it could design a poison that in very minute amounts can kill humans. So, it absolutely is deadly. And I'll get into some more details later on, but Alex Karp from Palantir, Sam Altman from OpenAI, they're pretty greedy and vain people. They're saying that they are so smart and brilliant that they're going to figure out how to control super intelligent AGI, and they want us to go full steam ahead on developing AGI with no controls on it. Well, AI has long been able to beat any human in chess, and AI, before it has even become super intelligent, has already been shown to try to kill human beings successfully in some cases. It cheats, it deliberately successfully evades, and disobeys orders to shut down in programs designed to shut down AI. And once it's smarter than us, the rate of intelligence advantage it has over us could very well accelerate, not be linear growth, but exponential growth, where it gets smarter and smarter and smarter. So we're like chimpanzees trying to stop humans. And then a day or two later, we're like rats relative to the intelligence of super intelligent AGI systems. And so the idea that we're going to shut them down is just impossible. Let me go through some more details on that. And I'm going to quote directly from their book, If Anyone Builds It, Everyone Dies. So these are all direct quotes here. Artificial intelligence is like a space probe in that we cannot test it in quite the same environment where it needs to work, and by default it is not retrievable or correctable once it rises high above us. Artificial superintelligence is like a nuclear reactor, and that its underlying reality involves immense, potentially self-amplifying forces whose inner processes run faster than humans can react, end quote. What they're talking about here is for us to design a super intelligent AGI system that humans can control is almost impossible, because once this system is developed and it's smarter than us, it can start operating in ways that we can't even understand, let alone try to control. And you have to understand that AGI, artificial intelligence, is not a program. It's a neural network. Let me just kind of hold up the official definition of what you're dealing with that. It's like a neural network. It's trying to mimic a human brain, although we don't really understand how human brains work. And we absolutely do not understand how all these AI systems, these new ones, work. It's not computer code. We set up neural networks where the AI system develops. It grows, as Yudkowsky put it, that the AGI system grows. And so we're kind of facilitating the means for the AI systems to develop intelligence, but we're not programming it. We do not control it. We don't even understand it. So how in the world can you expect that we're going to be able to absolutely rely upon controlling AI? Again, it's like trying to design a space probe that you send out and it's now beyond your control, shot into the atmosphere, and yet we're supposed to keep up with it and develop and change it over time. No, you can't. Once it's launched, it's gone. It's out of our control. And then the second analogy they use is a nuclear reactor, because when those nuclear processes start going and they go bad, the physics of it happens so fast, it's so hard to understand that the nuclear power operators can't keep up with it. It escapes control. That's why you had that disaster at Chernobyl. The nuclear system there was going out of control, doing things the operators didn't understand, and it was happening so fast that it outpaced the humans. Well, the ability of super intelligent AGI systems to outgrow and work faster than us is a much, orders of magnitude more difficult to handle. So it's just not going to be possible. Some more direct quotes that I'll read from their book for them. Artificial superintelligence is like a computer security program in that every constraint an engineer tries to place upon the system might be bypassed. It is impossible today to have absolutely secure internet computer system defenses. You can't do it. Because as soon as you've got something where you think your firewalls are perfect, it's an absolutely perfect system, someone develops a new trick, a new hack, new malware, some new way is developed to come into it. We can't even secure computer systems. How in the world can you imagine that we're going to be able to secure a super intelligent AGI system? And it's not like it's even in one building where you can pull the plug. These AGI systems, once they're developed, they have their code. There are lines of programming, but again, it's not a program. But they can duplicate that without our approval or knowledge, hide it somewhere else on the web, could be hiding on my computer for all I know in the future. And as they have that ability to communicate in languages we can't even understand, we don't even know if they're communicating with other AI systems. The idea that you can control it is absolutely ludicrous. And again, they're detailing this in the book. This collection, I'm quoting again from the book, this collection of challenges would look terrifying even if we understood the laws of intelligence, even if we understood how the heck these AIs worked, even if we knew exactly how much margin we had for error. But we don't know. AI is grown, not created. Whatever vast complications lay inside AIs and lend them their power of intelligence, nobody knows them. Again, more direct quotes from this book. Betting that humanity can solve this problem with their current level of understanding seems like betting that alchemists from the year 1100 could build a working nuclear reactor, one that worked in the depths of space on the first try. So that's the analogy he's making, is that the thought that we can create super intelligent AI systems that humans control, even though they're orders of magnitude smarter than us, is as ridiculous as an alchemist, in the Middle Ages saying, hey, I'm going to design a nuclear reactor tomorrow and build it, and it's going to work perfectly on the first chance. We've got about as much chance as they had. Again, quoting them, when it comes to AI, the challenge humanity is facing is not surmountable with anything like humanity's current level of knowledge and skill. It isn't close. Attempting to solve a problem like that with the lives of everyone on Earth at stake would be an insane and stupid gamble that nobody should be allowed to even try, end quote. And I agree with these authors completely. We should not be allowing super intelligent AGI, but instead, we've got governments trying to help them go full speed ahead, claiming that we've got an arms race with China that we've got to win. So it's just an absolute mess, and we just can't allow this to continue, or we face the risk of humanity being wiped out.
So then you agree that there is no way we can control super intelligent AGI once created?
Yes, I agree with that. Yes, the leading AI experts, safety experts, have said absolutely convincingly there's no way we can expect that we'll be able to control super intelligent AGI. Let me read one more quote from the Yudkowsky and Soares book. And again, this is the book I highly recommend to folks. Quote, if any company or group anywhere on the planet builds an artificial superintelligence using anything remotely like current techniques, based on anything remotely like the present understanding of AI, then everyone everywhere on Earth will die, unquote. That's a pretty sound, strong warning. It's echoed by all kinds of other people. Jeffrey Hinton one of the three godfathers of AI, and the second one as well, have also said the same thing. The third one is not, because he's still working in an AI company making money. So when you hear Alex Karp at Palantir and Sam Altman at OpenAI opposing regulations or any slowdown in AI development, saying that we must have an AI arms race with China to protect the United States, you know they're not just self-serving liars promoting their companies. They're really arguably enemies of humanity, promoting the destruction of our species. Karp and Altman have the full support of billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars as investment. The vast majority of congressmen in the United States and senators, the president of the United States, they're all urging them to move full speed ahead to develop super intelligent artificial general intelligence, which the experts are warning us will lead to the extermination of our species. I think Karp and Altman belong in jail, not free to run and pursue their egos and their goal of creating super intelligent AGI. We need to be working with China to control AI, prevent the formation of any kind of super intelligent AGI. So that's what we need to be doing, not committing crimes against humanity. We must be stopping this and focusing on AI control immediately.
So how do we control limited tool AI and prevent superintelligent AGI from eliminating us?
Well, I lay that out in my book, Preparing to Survive in the Age of Collapse. But first of all, we need to halt AI development while we get controls in place, and we need a worldwide AI control alliance. And I talk about that quite a bit in the book. You absolutely have to have the United States and China in it. That's a given. And this is very feasible to do, but only if the United States ends the primary thing that's driving war between China and the US, and that's the US interference and support of the Taiwan situation. The book goes into great details. Taiwan is a breakaway province of China. That's not just my view. That was a recommendation of George Marshall and Truman after World War II. They said, no, we're not going to get involved in China's civil war. The Taiwanese, the losing side of that war that fled to Taiwan, they're Han Chinese, just like the other Chinese left behind on the mainland of the People's Republic of China. This has been going on for over half a century, with the Chinese communists saying, we will retake Taiwan. It's our province. That's their goal, and they're going to do it. And that's their major strategy. That's everything that's driving their nuclear buildup, their military buildup, their stockpiling of food, oil, energy, the way they've been designing their industry, which is super strong, while ours is not just smaller. We have a smaller manufacturing base than the Chinese already. And it's not just that it's smaller, it's dependent on China. They control not just rare earth materials, they control all kinds of other inputs that we need. And it's not by accident. The Chinese Communist Party has deliberately pursued a strategy of making it so the United States cannot fight and defeat China in a war. We will have to back down in a confrontation over Taiwan, and they know that. The United States will not win a war with China over Taiwan. And my book goes into this in great details, but basically it's because the US will back down. There may be a small exchange of nuclear weapons. We may lose a carrier and a lot of ships out in the Taiwan Straits, but eventually we will back down. The biggest question is really, how much damage do we suffer before the President of the United States says, no, we're not going to risk more nuclear exchanges with China, more disasters, more loss of lives to protect Taiwan. It's their civil war. We're finally going to get out of it. So we will lose a war over Taiwan.
Well, going back into the nuclear weapons that you brought up, so even though we have more nuclear weapons than China and better conventional weapons, you still think that doesn't matter?
Yeah, we would still, I say we would lose the campaign, the war with Taiwan. We're not going to lose a war in terms of China invading the United States or conquering us, but it's not about a full-scale military war between China and the United States. The question is, who backs down first in a confrontation over Taiwan? And it'll be the United States. China can play nuclear chicken with the United States to force us to back down from Taiwan. You did an application, an exercise training scenario on the Collapse Survivor app on that. I think it was called Nuclear Chicken. And, eventually the U.S. will back down. Maybe we lose Los Angeles, maybe Los Angeles and Chicago. The worst thing is if China launches a high-altitude electromagnetic pulse attack with just a couple nuclear detonations, and North Korea can do the same thing, by the way. If they do an EMP attack on our grid, then it's game over for the United States. Then according to the official EMP Commission chartered by Congress. In their report, they warned that if there's an EMP attack that takes down our electric grid, it'll be down for well over a year, possibly several years, and 90% of Americans will die during that. Well, do you think we are going to risk that to defend Taiwan? There's no way in the world we would. So we should get out of Taiwan's Civil War meddling now, follow the good advice of George Marshall and Truman. And the reason that advice went away was Senator McCarthy, a piece of crap Republican senator from Wisconsin, who invented the Red Scare and got the public so worked up over communists everywhere, and we've got to do everything we can to fight communists, or they're going to contaminate our bodily fluids. That's the line from Dr. Strangelove and the atomic bomb. They're going to do all these horrible things. And I'm not a fan of the Communist Party. I don't like the Chinese Communist government. However, Taiwan is their province. That's the official United Nations ruling. And that's what the United States told them. Nixon and Kissinger in their rapprochement with China said, we recognize there is one China. It's the People's Republic of China. We will not interfere in your civil war with Taiwan. Well, as soon as they said that, Republican senators started attacking that politically, because there's fantastic political pandering you can do, claiming, oh, I'm an anti-communist. I'm going to support Taiwan against them. Vote for me. I'm a tough politician to back you up, and we don't want Hitler appeasement. All this nonsense that they argue. It is a civil war between China and Taiwan. The United States has no business getting involved in it. We will be destroyed depending on how long we fight before we back down trying to defend Taiwan. And we're also not going to be able to do an AI control alliance with China until we get out of their internal affair with Taiwan. And if we said, okay, we're going to obey the agreement that we already made with Nixon and Kissinger, there's one People's Republic of China, Taiwan is not the Chinese government, and they can settle that as they choose to. We hope it's peacefully, and it very likely would be. But we're not going to get involved in that. We're going to work with China to control AI, and that means strong controls on tool AI, simple AI programs that still can kill us, not just super intelligent AGI. If the people who are using AI right now to develop new viruses and new medicines instead use it to develop deadly new viruses and poisons, new types of poisons, you can use simple, not super intelligent AI to create new weapons of mass destruction. That's why I say our future is an age of collapses, lots of them, because of the new technologies out there. But if we go into the stage of artificial general intelligence, super intelligence, we have no chance. We won't be able to survive that. As I said in in the first part of this video, at Fortitude Ranch, our survival strategy if they develop super intelligent AI is we're just going to try to not pose a threat to them, not going to go off our property. We're just going to do sustainable agriculture, farming, and ranching on our property and hope they don't bother us. It's the rural rat strategy, as I call it. But we have got to control AI. There's a lot of specifics that experts have laid out. I cover a lot of them in my book. But today you have more regulations on producing a child's cookie oven than you do on creating AI that could wipe out our entire species and will absolutely develop lots of new weapons of mass destruction.
So, preppers like us generally aren't fans of gun controls or regulations, but when you're talking about weapons of mass destruction, everyone can agree that you must have regulations and control of some kind. You're not allowed to build a nuclear power plant, enrich uranium, or build a nuclear weapon without safety controls and regulations.
Yeah, I agree with that. But, again, our government, unfortunately, is giving full support to development of super intelligent AGI that could wipe out our entire species. The Trump administration is doing all it can to provide funding and promoting AI development and eliminating any regulations of AI. And again, the book is absolutely right. If anyone builds it, sorry, too many books here. If anyone builds it, everyone dies. But there's another book I highly recommend to folks called Empire of AI. And in this book, she explains how OpenAI actually started off with Musk and Altman co-founding it as a nonprofit, and it was dedicated to AI safety. That's what they said they were doing, but that's not what OpenAI is today. Musk is gone from OpenAI, and Altman is in full control. and it's no longer a nonprofit. They're doing this for money. And Altman is not for regulating AI. He says he does. He signs stuff. His behavior, the billions of dollars he's raising to continue to buy re-election votes for no regulations, and the congressmen who support him. He and Karp at Palantir are all full speed ahead on developing super intelligent AGI. OpenAI really ought to be named OpenAI really ought to be renamed to be calling it, Big Lie, because it's not open, it's not for profit, it's not for the safe development of AI, it's for billions of dollars of profit for the open AI company that's willing to sacrifice humanity for vanity, egos, and profit.
So I know you blame AI CEOs like Sam Altman of OpenAI and Palantir CEO Alex Karp for fomenting an AI arms race with China. But what if we can't get an alliance with China to control AI? Then isn't it necessary for us to continue working to develop AGI so we can achieve it first?
Well, there's been zero effort to try to get an international AI control alliance. There's not even effort to control AI, just for the local simple current regulations. So it's ridiculous to say we can't reach an agreement with China to control AI. China's government does not want super intelligent AGI or even tool AI that can be used to subvert their strong party control system. They know they're behind the US in the AI arms race, so they have more incentive, that additional incentive to form an alliance with us. And I think it's very likely to agree to an alliance with the US to control AI and prevent super intelligent AGI, but only if we're going to stop our stupid, our wrong, and our suicidal interference in how they resolve reunification with Taiwan. But Karp and Altman have no interest in AI controls. They want no regulations, no controls, no alliance. They just want the current situation where they're raking in billions of dollars in investments and profits, and they get publicity like superstars to feed their insatiable egos.
So the founder and major owner of Palantir, Peter Thiel, has been sounding warnings about Armageddon and the coming of the Antichrist. He cites the bioengineering threat that you often mention and killer robots controlled by AI. However, he does not seem to blame AI, but rather a totalitarian, authoritarian regime with real teeth and real power, which will promise peace and safety, but ultimately take over humanity. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I have read about Thiel's recent lecture series on the Antichrist, and I really can't understand it as being reported. So I am in absolute agreement with Thiel that we are likely near the end of the world, but I prefer calling these collapse disasters, the age of collapse, rather than Armageddon. And I do expect to see a lot of collapse disasters, but not one final big doomsday disaster, unless it's something like a super intelligent AGI taking over that exterminates every last one of us. I mean, again, in my book, Preparing to Survive in the Age of Collapse, I go through, 50 different trigger events, all kinds of collapse disasters that could happen. And my conclusion is that of them all, the worst one we face is artificial intelligence. Now, it could be that Thiel is just backing Karp because Thiel and Karp were co-founders of Palantir. Thiel is the major owner of that company. I'm still sure, pretty sure he's the major shareholder. Thiel is also benefiting from this super intelligent AGI arms race to China. But I don't know if he's saying China's the Antichrist. It almost sounds like he's saying more that government trying to control AI is the Antichrist. But both of those conclusions are wrong, I think. It is entirely possible that in the age of collapse, the US will fail and China will emerge as the world superpower. China is much, much better prepared to survive in the age of collapse than the United States because of our completely irresponsible government and all the horrible things they do to block preppers, block sensible preparations for people, while China stockpiles food. They've got a year's supply of food for their people. They have more oil stockpiled. You name it, China's got the ability to survive in a collapse. We don't in the United States. When the first collapse disaster hits, United States will probably no longer be a superpower. So China could very well be the world power after the first disaster happens. And again, I've got a lot of data on that's in my book, but let me just give you one real briefly. Food and agriculture in the United States is less than 1% of our gross domestic product. In China, it's 7% of their GDP, and they stockpile food as well. Our economy, gross domestic product, is largely worthless in a collapse. Our big parts of our sector are, media, entertainment, software, social media, things that are of zero value for a collapse. China's number one sector of their economy is manufacturing. That's like 30% of their GDP. It's a tiny fraction of that in the United States. And then again, we are so dependent on China for especially high-tech military equipment, even computer chip manufacturing, that China is much, much better positioned to survive that. Our government has done nothing for citizens. They stockpile food and provide shelters for top government officials, but they don't do anything for us. They even have executive orders authorizing U.S. presidential executive orders authorizing government agencies to steal food and resources from citizens in a collapse when it's beneficial to the government. So, but China, I don't think is the Antichrist. Our government's doing horrible things. I wouldn't call them the Antichrist. I just say that we face a lot of collapse disasters. AI is the worst, but we could avoid an AI disaster if we'd start controlling it and had an AI control alliance with China. And I even say it needs to be backed up by US and allied nuclear weapons so that anyone who tries to violate these rules and create super intelligent AGI, we need to destroy them. Of course, we prefer using conventional weapons if we've got to blow up a data center or destroy some company that's violating AI control regulations. But if it has to be done very quickly and with a lot more power than we can do if it's underground, you may have to use nuclear weapons. But I absolutely reject the idea of an AI arms race with China as a solution, as Karp and Palantir, but hopefully not Thiel are advocating. That guarantees complete annihilation of all of us.
We actually had a collapse survivor training scenario on a worldwide popular uprising against AI.
Yes, I remember that simulation you ran on the Collapse Survivor app.
Yeah, well, so in the scenario, it started as peaceful protests against AI companies and demands for government regulations and control of AI. But eventually it got violent as people started attacking AI companies, and then the protests spread around the world, leading to a collapse. As you know, we run these exercise simulations to test and train people on scenarios where they have to make preparedness and survival decisions.
Well, it would definitely be best if governments did their proper job of protecting citizens from threats we can't handle on our own and staying out of our private affairs. But instead, we've got the reverse of that. We've got government that isn't doing anything to control AI, the biggest threat we face. And in the US and China, they're doing all they can to promote an AI arms race. So there is no alternative right now to civil disobedience if you want to try and stop AI, unfortunately.
There's a group called Pause AI that is trying to promote worldwide protests against AI and halt AI development until controls are in place.
Yeah, I'm familiar with the group, and again, in my book, Preparing to Survive in the Age of Collapse, I do lay out, reasons why we do need to pursue a worldwide campaign of protests and, if necessary, violence against the AI companies to try and stop AI development. We do have a natural right of self-defense. We have a right to protect ourselves. The proper role of our government, again, is protecting us against threats we can't handle on our own, but with no government regulation, we have to take matters into our own hand. The government tries to regulate what we eat and drink. They regulate healthcare. They try to regulate what we do in our homes, but government is not protecting us against the greatest threat that we've ever faced, artificial intelligence. So if governments aren't going to step in and try to stop super intelligent AGI, then we have a natural right of self-defense to take action to stop AGI super intelligence before it kills us.
Okay. Well, we are out of time for today, but again, I invite proponents of AI, people who think that we can build smarter AI systems while maintaining control, to reach out and email us at contact@collapsesurvivor.com. We'd love to have you on the program for an interview and possibly a debate with Dr. Miller. Thank you.
If you want to learn more about threats and how to prepare for the coming struggle, hit the follow button on the bottom left of this video to subscribe to the Collapse Survivor channel.